16 years from today, Greg Gerstner will finally land the perfect cannonball. Epic splash. Unsuspecting friends. A work of art only possible because Greg is already meeting all these same people at AARP volunteer and community events that keep him active and involved and help make sure his happiness lives as long as he does. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/local.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision-crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision-crafted performance.
Take your vibes on go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Hey, Stanley.
Yeah, George?
How'd you like your own TV show?
Okay.
Channel 62 needed a new station manager.
No, not him. Forget it. No way.
Well, this is even better than I imagined.
But what they got was a man so desperate for ratings,
Today, we're teaching poodles how to fly.
he put anyone on the air. It's Weird Al Yankovic in UHF. Rated PG-13 starts Friday, July 21st at theaters everywhere.
In 1989, a groundbreaking film burst onto the scene, revolutionizing the cinematic landscape in ways previously unimaginable. With an incredible cast and cutting-edge special effects, this film captivated audiences with its deeply relatable yet hilariously flawed characters. Would you believe that it was led by none other than Weird Al Yankovic? Directed by Jay Levey and co-written with Weird Al himself, this 80s flick tells the story of George Newman, a quirky character whose career seems to crumble at every turn. But when his uncle gifts him a struggling local TV station, George unleashes a torrent of outlandish television shows filled with social satire and zany humor. With the help of his loyal friend Bob, their whimsical creations attract the ire of a ruthless rival station CEO, setting the stage for an epic showdown. So grab yourself a Twinkie Weiner Sandwich, a box of Yappy's dog treats, and don't forget to spin the wheel of fish as Nicholas Pepin and I discuss UHF from 1989 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. All right, welcome in, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host. Excited to have you with us. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you don't miss on any episodes. We want to hear from you as well. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you're feeling generous, please support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com. Every little bit helps. You can also visit our website, 80sflickflashback.com, and our TeePublic store for some awesome 80s Flick Flashback merch and original designs. All right, it's time to meet this week's guest co-host, and he's been ready to talk about this movie ever since we launched the podcast back in 2020. If you're already a fan of his Pop Culture Roulette podcast, and you know he's a bona fide Weird Al fanatic and can name all of his parody albums to prove it. Welcome back to the show, Nicholas Pepin. How you doing, Nicholas?
I'm just here to put the pod in podcasting.
UHF. I think this is one of those bona fide cult classic movies. I mean, we've covered several that maybe didn't succeed at the box office like they hoped, but definitely has a cult following. And I would think anybody that was our age when this movie was on video or on cable, we were obsessed with it.
Absolutely.
So let's jump in. When did you see UHF for the first time?
In January of 1990.
Okay. So a couple of years after, well, no, a year after, 1990.
Because it was in the theaters. I mean, and I'm sure you'll get to it when we get to that section.
Right.
It had some really stiff competition that year. 89 was a strong movie year. For whatever reason, even though I was a massive Weird Al fan, my parents just didn't take me to see this movie. And it could have been that it was in and out of theaters real fast.
Quick. Yeah.
So I didn't see it, but as soon as it came on video, like we rented it, I watched it, I got him to buy me a copy, and I probably wore that VHS out. I watched this movie so much.
Yeah, this is one that I know I didn't see it in the theater. I don't even remember if I knew it was in the theater, or maybe like it was one that I probably saw the trailer for and was like, ooh, I want to see that when it comes out. And then like never really, like it was in the theater for like a week or two and then it was gone. And it was like, did I miss it? So, but I'm pretty sure this was a rental that was like rented over and over again. I don't know if I owned this one on VHS, but it was definitely on cable, or people had copies that they recorded from cable, because it was one of those movies that if you were hanging out at somebody's house on like a Saturday or spending the night, like we were going to watch it. You know, if you had a copy, you were going to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, this was a movie that was in pretty heavy rotation for a while in my world, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. So how long has it been since you rewatched it before we were watching it for the podcast?
When the Weird Al movie came out, the one that Daniel Radcliffe was in, I had so much fun watching that movie that I was like, I need to watch UHF again. So I fired up, I found it was streaming somewhere, or, and I watched it, and it just, it brought back all the warm and fuzzies. Like it just, and like, I saw it so much that like, I can't necessarily, like, it's been so long since I had seen it that I couldn't necessarily quote it. But like, as soon as I started watching it, I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly don't know when the last time I watched this. I think I had seen like bits and pieces, in the last like 20 years or so. But like, once again, it wasn't one that I think I owned on VHS. It wasn't one I owned on DVD. But knowing we were going to cover it, I was able to get a copy of the Blu-ray, and so, but I've been waiting till I wouldn't want to watch it, but I wanted to wait until closer to time for the podcast. So I honestly don't know how long it's been. So watching it again yet last night was like, it's not a first watch, because like a lot of stuff I remembered, but there were certain scenes like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot this is in this, or this is what this is where that line came from, or like that's where, certain like little bits that they had, the Spatula City, like I could have swore that was in something else that I had seen, or, let me tell you something, lady, guns don't kill people. I do. Like I thought that was something else or from something else. So seeing those little parts like, oh, okay, that's where that, it's lodged in my subconscious and like, it's part of my pop culture knowledge. But if it was in a trivia up until last night, I probably would not have thought that was from UHF. I would have thought it was from something else.
And I had the Weird Al, I had the UHF soundtrack.
Right.
Which wasn't really like, it was a soundtrack. It didn't do the classic thing that a lot of soundtracks do where they cut in like clips from the movie. Like it was just, and there were a lot of songs that didn't make it to the movie. It was almost like it was its own separate album that he just called UHF as well. It had the Beverly Hills Billies song and the theme song and the Let Me Be Your Hog and so it had the Spatula City, so like I've listened to that album probably as many, if not more times since I've seen the movie. So yeah, like you said, this was one of the first things I requested after, like, I was like, wait, you have an 80s film flashback podcast? Right. Yeah, all right, well, we've done Lethal Weapon. Let me do UHF.
Yeah.
We'll get there. No, come on, let me do UHF.
Yep. I guess I had said a couple episodes before, like we did on Golden Pond, which is one that Bethany had been asking since the beginning. I said, this was the year I was going to like, okay, my, some of my recurring podcast, host, but I was looking forward to doing this one on Golden Pond, not as much, but it was still, it was a good movie. We go back and listen to the episode. This is not the same kind of movie at all, but this is definitely one that, on Golden Pond, I'd never seen, This one I had seen and I had fond memories of it. So I was excited to watch it again, but I was also like, I hope it's as good as I remember. And it some things don't hold up as well, but it's still a fun watch, and appreciating it for what it is, which is just Weird Al doing parodies of movies, just like he parodied songs, but just
right.
It was an extension of like the Zucker Brothers airplane movies, Naked Gun. It's got that same type of like parody humor. So if you're a fan of those kind of movies, you're definitely going to be a fan of this one as well. So
absolutely.
All right, well, let's jump into story, origin, and pre-production. Not a long story here, but it does have a story there. And if you want to fill in anything that I missed, I'm sure you know this movie backwards and forwards as well.
Yeah. I mean, I do know the movie quite well.
Yeah. So Yankovic and his manager, Jay Levey, had discussed the idea of a movie for Yankovic around 1985 after the success of his third album, Dare to Be Stupid. His popularity at that time led the two to thinking what other venues would work for the musician. The story concept they created was based on Yankovic's approach to his music video parodies. After sketching several such parodies for the film, they conceived Yankovic's character owning a small-time UHF station broadcasting these parodies as shows, as this would not require having a significant plot to string the parodies together in a similar manner to Airplane. The two shopped the script around Hollywood film agencies for about 3 years. They were surprised to learn one of their agents had shown the script to the founders of a new production company, Cinecorp, which was interested and had given it to producers Gene Kirkwood and John W. Hyde. Kirkwood stated he had previously seen Yankovic's videos and wanted to make a movie with him. Kirkwood and Hyde had connections with Orion Pictures, which offered up $5 million to make the movie. So, of course, the title refers to Ultra High Frequency Broadcast Band, which in the U.S. was typically known for low-budget television stations with no network affiliation. Weird Al wanted to call the movie The Vidiot, like Video Idiot. He didn't think UHF would make much sense in a world slowly gravitating towards cable television, and the UHF designation is not widely known outside of North America. For the U.S. markets, Orion insisted on UHF. In most foreign markets, it was called The Vidiot from UHF. In the DVD commentary, Weird Al says that in interviews on foreign television shows, when asked why he picked that title, he felt like replying, "I didn't. The studio did. I hate that title." In Mexico, it was released as Los Telelocos, which translates as the TV Crazies.
Which makes probably more sense than... obviously you and I, being the age that we are, very familiar with UHF. Those were the stations that, you had to get up and retune the rabbit ears.
Right.
And, that was, that was where you were watching all the reruns. That was where you got to see the weird Saturday morning, afternoon movies. Those were the fun channels that, it never had anything new, but, that was
if it was anything new, it was nothing we wanted to watch. It was some news story or, local, like a local talk show or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was, I'm too young to remember. I'm not too young. I was too young at the time to know any of the local, I don't know if they had in Memphis where I grew up, if there were UHF, local talk shows or,
right.
Kids shows or stuff like that. I remember vaguely here and there, but I don't remember what was nationwide and what was local. And,
yeah.
But I remember that's probably where I watched Star Trek and Gilligan's Island and all the stuff we'd watch before primetime, and then we'd switch over to one of the networks.
Yeah, I remember UHF. I remember a couple of stations, like you said, here in Atlanta. I remember 36 was a UHF, and I even think 69 was still out at that point. And then of course TBS was local for us. It was a local UHF station, even though it became the super station for cable or whatever. So but yeah, I knew what UHF meant, but it was it's that was, and if I remember correctly, on the old dial TVs, sometimes we were trying to get 36, it wasn't quite clear enough, but if you turn the dial just enough where hung between the two notches, it would clear up a little bit.
Well, some TVs even had the little button where you had to flip from VHF.
Yes,
to
I remember
UHF.
that.
You know,
Yep, I remember that.
because you'd have to do the different band or whatever.
Yeah. I remember one TV we had. I don't know if it was the UHF channel, like there was that, because there was two channels. The top was the broadcast channel, like 1 through 13 or whatever it was, and then the bottom one went to like 17 to 69 or whatever. But on one of them, it must have been the UHF channel one, but the knob had broken off, so it was just like a little metal stub. So we had a pair of pliers that we would actually use to turn the channel. So yeah, vivid memory as a kid of having that. So when we got cable and you got like a little box that you push the buttons on, that was like the coolest invention ever. Like, oh, we can keep our broken TV and still change channels on this little box on top.
Well, that was back in the day when you had to get up to change the channel. You couldn't just nobody had a remote. Like, come on now.
Yeah. I remember, I think the first person I met that had a remote control, I was probably like late middle school, early high school. And him, like his parents had a TV with a remote control. And I was like, it's the coolest, but they called it the clicker, which I thought was I hated that term.
Yeah.
Who's got the clicker? And I was like, what is a clicker?
Yeah, I say nowadays you can't even turn the TV on without the remote.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't find the remote. You're just not watching TV.
That's like you're touching the back, like everything underneath it on the back of the screen, and like, what does this button do? Nothing. It doesn't do anything until you turn it on.
The 80s Flick Flashback Podcast will return after these messages.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Hell, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from 3 nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
Are you a fan of movies and TV shows inspired by comics? Ready for a podcast that dives deep into the thrilling world of adaptations? Well, look no further. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. This is your go-to podcast for all things comics on screen. I'm your host, Laramie Wells, and every Monday we explore the dynamic universe where ink meets action. We break down the classics, reveal hidden gems, and uncover the creative process behind your favorite adaptations. Subscribe to Moving Panels now on your favorite podcast platform and join us on this epic journey through the pages of comics and onto the big screen. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday. Don't miss out. Moving Panels, where every panel has a story and every adaptation is a blockbuster. Subscribe today, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
All right, well, we've got a lot to cover on the cast, and I tried to scale it as much as possible, but this could almost be one of those before there were famous movies, because there's a lot of people in here that are not a lot. There's a few people in here that were not as popular then as we know them to be now.
Right.
And you'll also find out there were some people that auditioned for this movie that were not popular then that became very popular. So, but of course, we start at the top with Yankovic himself. He always envisioned to be the central character of the film, written as a straight man with a vivid imagination to allow the insertion of the parodies into the film script in a manner similar to the film The Secret Life of Walter Mitty from 1947, which is a great movie as well. And I did see those parallels in watching it again. To focus on the parodies, George was not developed and beyond driving the principal storyline. The name Newman was selected as an homage to Mad Magazine's mascot, Alfred E. Newman, and the title of George's children's show, Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse, also came from Mad Magazine. Now, I was a huge Mad Magazine reader, especially during this time, and I still have. I found my collection. I thought it had been lost forever, and a couple, like last year, I found it in my parents' basement. I was like, it has been found, and I went through. I've got a ton of, it's a huge stack of Mad magazines. But yeah, so I didn't know that until doing the research. So I thought that was cool that it's, based on that. But once again, parodies. So I was very accustomed to parodies when this came out because I was a fan of Mad Magazine. So Weird Al, since having one of his comedy songs aired on the Dr. Demento radio show in 1976 at age 16, he sold more than 12 million albums as of 2015, recorded more than 150 parodies and original songs, and performed more than 1,000 live shows. His work has earned him 5 Grammy Awards and a further 11 nominations, 4 gold records, and 6 platinum records in the U.S. His first top 10 Billboard album, Straight Outta Linwood, and single White and Nerdy, were both released in 2006, nearly 3 decades into his career. His 14th studio album, Mandatory Fun, in 2014, became his first #1 album during its debut week. His success has been attributed to his effective use of music videos to further parody pop culture, the song's original artist, the original music videos themselves. He has directed some of his own music videos and has also directed music videos for other artists, including Ben Folds, Hanson, the Black Crowes, and Presidents of the United States of America. With the decline of music television and the onset of social media, he used YouTube and other video sites to publish his videos. In addition to his music career, he wrote and starred in UHF and the TV series The Weird Al Show in 1997. He's also produced 2 satirical films about his own life, The Complete Al in 1985 and Weird, the Al Yankovic Story in 2022. He has acted in several TV shows and web series, in addition to starring in Al TV specials on MTV. He has also written 2 children's books, When I Grow Up in 2011 and My New Teacher and Me in 2013. I had to give him a full biography because it's his movie.
Right. Yeah.
Anything you want to add on there?
No, I mean, nothing that I haven't covered either when we did the little bonus episode for the Weird Al movie or on my own podcast. I mean, obviously, I'm a massive fan of Weird Al. I have been for as long as I've been aware of his existence. Probably sometime in, 86, 87, when I got the first cassette that I bought at a garage sale. I've seen him 3 or 4 times in concert, He is a super talented performer, and he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It is a travesty that he hasn't even been nominated yet.
And I will agree, every year when they talk about who should be the Super Bowl halftime show, it's like Weird Al is who we want. Yep. We need a Weird Al Super Bowl halftime show.
Absolutely, we do.
So we might have talked about this because we did do a bonus episode about Weird, the Al Yankovic Story when it came out, because it's so laden with 80s pop culture. We might have talked about it then, but did you hear a song first? Did you see a video, or you just got a cassette tape?
I got a cassette tape. I think it was one of those Bat or Fat and Eat It and Like a Surgeon and all that stuff was coming out. It was super popular, and it was it was like for our age. It just it was like peak comedy. It was something that my parents would let me have access to, where I wasn't necessarily allowed to have access to the people he was parodying, but for whatever reason I had access to him. So there are songs to this day when I hear on the radio that I immediately think of the Weird Al version because I heard that version first.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know I saw his videos first before I knew that I could actually buy his music. And I don't remember which one. The one that stands up, I remember I Lost on Jeopardy, which was one that I remember seeing the video for as a kid. And of course, when Eat It came out, that was probably like the biggest one that really kind of, blew him up, worldwide. And it might have been during that time they just started playing some of his older songs, like his older music videos at that point. But yeah,
and Dare to Be Stupid was associated with the Transformers.
Okay.
Like, I think it made it into the Transformers movie, if memory serves.
Okay.
There's a memory that gets stuck in my head with that. I don't, I could be wrong, but
right.
I distinctly remember being at a garage sale, like, in the neighborhood, like going to a garage sale and there being a Weird Al cassette for like a quarter or 50 cents or something like that. Running home, grabbing the money out of my piggy bank and running back and buying it because like I was like, this is that, I didn't have cable growing up. I didn't have cable until like 96. So I probably saw Weird Al videos on MTV when I was over at my friend's house.
Right.
I don't remember that as well because I didn't have access to the videos with any regularity. But I had the albums, and that was, my parents would buy me the albums when they came out. So like I had, all the Weird Al albums, I've since gone back and rebought a lot of the ones that I had on cassette on CD or,
We'll I'm sure we'll get more into it. We'll move on because we got a lot to cover, but go back. Definitely go back and listen to our bonus episode about the the Al Yankovic story. Cause I know we talked a little bit more about our history with Weird Al in that episode. So, playing Bob Steckler and Bobo the Clown is David Bowe. He's best known for his role in this movie. His other film credits include A Few Good Men in 92, Made in America in 93, Heavyweights in 95, The Rock in 96, and Kicking and Screaming in 2005. I knew he looked familiar, like he definitely looked like someone I'd seen before, but I really thought he had been in other things besides this, which I think he was, but he wasn't. Like maybe I just mostly remembered him from this as being like I wanted to think he was a sidekick for somebody else in another like teen comedy, but I couldn't find where it was. So
no, I know I see him and I'm like, oh, that's the guy.
Yeah. So the producers actually considered Jerry Seinfeld, who of course was not the Jerry Seinfeld we know now, for the role of George's friend Bob Speck, but he turned it down. David Bowe was a longtime Yankovic fan, easily fit the role during auditions. So that was cool. Being a fan of his, to be able to play his best friend's probably a dream come true.
It would be for me.
And then someone else who was not as popular then, Fran Drescher as Pamela Finkelstein. Okay. She made her screen debut with a small role in the 77 film Saturday Night Fever, later appeared in American Hot Wax in 78 and Wes Craven's horror film Stranger in Our House in 78. In the 80s, she worked as a comedic actress in the films like The Hollywood Knights, Dr. Detroit, This is Spinal Tap, and made guest appearances on several television series. In 1993, she achieved wider fame as Fran Fine in her own sitcom vehicle, The Nanny, for which she was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards and 2 Golden Globe Awards for Best Actress in a comedy TV series during the show's run. She was cast for her established comedy and for her nasally voice that made a humorous contrast for a news anchor. So, but yeah, I had no recollection that she was in this movie until I was watching it last night.
Like it's one of those, like I've seen this movie so much, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Fran. Fran Drescher's in this movie. But yeah, no, I think it was one of those, like when I saw The Nanny, I'm like, hey, that's the lady from you. I know her.
Right. Yeah, and it was funny because Tyra, I told her I was going to watch it last night, my wife Tyra, and so she came in like maybe 10 minutes in, right before they meet her, and so when she came, she goes, "Is that Fran Drescher?" I was like, "Yeah." So it was and then of course she recognized a few other people, but she didn't watch the whole thing. She was like, "This movie is so stupid," but I was like, "Yes, it is," and that's why she's like, "You like this movie?" I was like, "I loved this movie as a kid." So, but then we were talking about it later today. She was like, I told her I was doing the podcast tonight, and she was like, that terrible movie you watched last night? I said, it's not terrible. She'll say, it was so terrible I couldn't pull myself away, because she kept saying she was going to leave, and she'd stand up and watch 5 more minutes, and then she'd start to leave and she'd come back. So she didn't watch all of it, but she made it longer into it than she thought she would. But yeah, so it's not for everyone. It's a movie that's not for everyone, and we'll say that up front, but it was for us. All right, moving on. Michael Richards as Stanley Spadowski. He began his career as a stand-up comedian, first entering the national spotlight when he was featured on Billy Crystal's first cable TV special, and went on to become a series regular on the ABC's Fridays. From 89 to 98, he played Cosmo Kramer on Seinfeld, which is the most famous role. He made numerous guest appearances on a variety of TV shows such as Cheers. His film credits include So I Married an Axe Murderer, Airheads, Young Doctors in Love, Problem Child, Coneheads, Trial and Error, one of his few starring roles. In 2000, he starred in his own sitcom, The Michael Richards Show, which was canceled after only 2 months. But the role of Stanley Spadowski was written with Michael Richards in mind, having been impressed with his stand-up comedy and performance on the show Fridays. His role was influenced by Christopher Lloyd's performance on Taxi, so Yankovic had considered offering it to him, but kept Richards due to their original premise. Richards' agents told Yankovic that he was not interested in the role due to having a bout of Bell's palsy, but on second contact, Richards arrived on set, dropped right into character for the test read, and got the part. But he's a very different character than Kramer, which is, yes, I think it's hard for people to see him in this role because he's so iconic as Kramer. But yeah.
And I think if you do the time, I don't remember if it was from the time it came out on VHS or the time that it was released in theaters. Like it was within
a couple weeks. Yeah.
It was a couple weeks from when this movie came out, from when he started Kramer. Like it was, like,
that was one of the, I don't think I put it in my notes, but I did see that. Like, I think because Seinfeld was like a mid-season replacement, or it might have been like a summer, like it was a short, the first season was short because it was like, it might have been a summer release, like
when it was still the Seinfeld Chronicles.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was like when this movie came out, like literally like a couple of weeks or like a month later, it was the show came out and he became much more popular. But it was still, Seinfeld really wasn't popular until like its second, like halfway through its second season. So
right,
it still took time for it to find its flow. And yeah, I remember watching that from the beginning because I was huge stand-up fan. Like I loved stand-up comedy, and there were a few shows that would come on that would like feature stand-up comics. So like we'll get to Emo Phillips here in a minute. I'm going to mention him. I already don't have much to talk about him, but I remember seeing him doing stand-up, and I know he used to tour with Weird Al as well. So I guess he would probably do stand-up before the concerts or whatever. But when he popped up, I was like, I know that guy because I'd seen him in a bunch of little different stand-up comedy specials. So did you know who he was?
I mean, I know, I've always known Emo Phillips as the guy from this movie. Then I knew he was a stand-up later on in life, but I actually saw Emo Phillips open for Weird Al.
Okay.
When I went and saw him a couple, like 2 years ago at this point.
Okay.
Now.
He still does the same kind of comedy, like the voice and the
manner. Yeah, and I still don't know to this day if that voice is real or if it's just a part of the act that like Bobcat Goldthwait is.
Right. Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried.
I don't know if that Emo Phillips voice is real or if it's a put on, but if it is a put on, it's he's been doing it for so long now that like
right.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along, we got Kevin McCarthy as R.J. Fletcher, the owner of Channel 8. Of course, we talked. Were you on the episode about Interspace?
Yes, I was.
Yes, because I remember us talking about him. I was like, I kind of remember that you mentioned like he's in UHF. So they found Kevin McCarthy in a similar stage of his career as Leslie Nielsen, one of many serious vintage actors who had crossed over into satire. According to Levy, McCarthy relished the role. Yankovic noted that McCarthy struggled not to laugh during takes. McCarthy later described his character as a fellow who makes Ebenezer Scrooge look like Sally Struthers. Yankovic cited one of McCarthy's best-known roles as the ageless history teacher in the classic Twilight Zone episode, Long Live Walter Jameson. So, I mean, I knew Kevin McCarthy more so from Interspace, but I mean, he plays kind of the same character in both. Yes. I think we talked about that in the Interspace episode. So, but yeah, he's great in this. And I think I was reading said like they kept telling him to be meaner. They want you. They like kept do it meaner. Like want you to be as mean as possible. And so he just thought that was so much fun to like just be this over the top mean person. So, but yeah, he's pretty mean. This is like a number 2 pencil to you. And then, I mean, we haven't really gotten to scenes, but when he fires Stanley for, thinking he took the report, the paperwork, and then he sits in the chair and it's in this chair. It's like, okay, you're not going to, hire him back. Nope. Because he's already fired him. So just, all those things. Oh, but one of my favorite, I know we're not getting favorite scenes, but one of my favorite scenes, we're going to talk about it now because it's on my mind, I'll forget later, is when the guy comes in the office with the awful cowboy hat and he's about to leave and he's like, for God's sake, take that ridiculous thing off, and he peels away his fake mustache. Oh man, I was like, that still works. That is like comedy gold. Like that is perfect.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, then we got Victoria Jackson as Terry, his long-suffering girlfriend. She's best known as a cast member of Saturday Night Live from 86 to 92. Her other film roles included Baby Boom in 87, The Pickup Artist also in 87, The Couch Trip in 88, Dream a Little Dream in 89, and I Love You to Death in 89. They did not significantly develop the relationship of Terry when in the original script because they didn't consider Yankovic a romantic lead. But Jennifer Tilly and Ellen DeGeneres auditioned, but Victoria Jackson's soft demeanor was preferred for the role of Terry.
I mean, there's not a lot for her to do.
Yeah.
Like, I could see Jennifer Tilly doing the role as easily as Victoria Jackson, but
no. Yeah, she's kind of the perfect kind of sufferable girlfriend that's just kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Victoria Jackson more from Saturday Night Live, but
Yeah. I mean, she pretty much plays the same character and everything, so it's not like wasn't like a big stretch for her, kind of playing herself. But I tried to watch some of the deleted, like I was a little disappointed with the Blu-ray because of the deleted scenes, but it was almost like a bit where like Weird Al would come on and say like, we have to do deleted scenes because I guess it was just a pull from an old DVD copy because the quality wasn't as good. And he was like, do you want to see me in a love scene? And it's a scene of him sitting in Victoria Jackson's lap, like after they had their dinner, and like she's trying to be serious, and he like starts tickling her, and they fall over in the chair, and like you could tell it was more the deleted scenes were more like outtakes than they were deleted scenes. So it was a little
I mean, I'm sure you have it in your notes. I don't know, but I mean, there's reportedly there was a 2.5 hour cut.
Yes.
And they cut it down, and a lot of people are like, "We want you to release the full movie." And Weird Al's like, "There's a reason why that stuff was cut."
Right?
Like,
exactly.
Like you don't want to see it. Like this is, we released the version that you want to see. Like you don't want the full 2.5 hours. Well, kind of like we talked about a couple weeks ago with Caddyshack. There's supposedly a 4 hour. You don't want that.
No,
the 90 minutes.
Is enough.
Yeah.
Is enough. Yeah, exactly. All right. Got a few more here to cover. Stanley Brock is another that guy for me. Played Harvey, George's uncle. He guest starred on numerous TV shows, probably where I recognized him from. One Day at a Time, Charlie's Angels, Happy Days, Knots Landing, Hill Street Blues, The A-Team, Quantum Leap, and Highway to Heaven. He was also in episodes of The Rockford Files and Night Court, which once again, probably where I saw him on. But he was one of those that guys. I had to mention him.
Yeah.
Was he that guy for you?
Pretty much.
Since you coined that phrase on the podcast here for us. So even when you're not a guest, that I mentioned you when you're not a guest, right?
I've listened to most of the episodes. So yeah, I know I get mentioned occasionally.
Yeah. Whenever we talk about that guy like this, if Nicholas was here, he'd say this is that guy. So one of my favorite on this is Anthony Geary as Philo. Yeah, Philo, the station engineer who's secretly an alien. His role was inspired by Joel Hodgson's stand-up routines with homemade inventions and deadpan comedy. Hodgson declined the role because he felt he was not a good actor, and he was also working on Mystery Science Theater 3000, which became its own hit. Crispin Glover, that's right, from Back to the Future, was approached for the role, but he only wanted to play the used car salesman. And they were like, no, he doesn't fit. As the producer sought other actors, their casting agent suggested Anthony Geary, who had gained popularity on General Hospital. I knew him as Luke of Luke and Laura from General Hospital. And if you watched that in the 80s, that you would know who that is. Gary said he wanted the role as a fan of Yankovic, once again, another fan that got to be in the movie, and as a completely opposite from his normal acting, which is true. He got to be a completely different character. So, which is why I love him in this role, because I grew up watching General Hospital. Luke and Laura was like, that was part of my childhood, watching this love story of these two actors. So I remember seeing him in this movie and like being blown away. Like, it's the soap opera guys in a movie. Like it was like unheard of for me.
I remember the Luke and Laura thing, but I never watched General Hospital, so I had no idea who this guy was.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it when he turns into an alien. That's like another great scene. All right, almost done here. So then we got Billy Barty, had to mention as Noodles McIntosh. We talked about Billy Barty previously from Masters of the Universe, so I won't go back into his filmography, but a great actor who's been in a bunch of great movies as well. Then Getty Watanabe as Cooney, the karate teacher, who later hosts the game show. He's known for voicing the character of Ling in the animated film Mulan and its sequel Mulan 2, as well as playing Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles in 84. He played Takahara Kaz Kashiro in Gung Ho in 86, another one of my favorite forgotten 80s flicks. And he was Nurse Yash in the NBC medical drama ER from 97 to 2003. Cooney was conceived for Getty Watanabe directly, while Yankovic created the role of the clumsy shop teacher for Emo Phillips, who was a close friend of his. So I guess he had seen Getty and wanted him in the movie, and which I was reading, I didn't put out his filmography, but I kind of figured, because I've seen him in so many other things, he is not from, his parents are from Japan, but he's never lived in Japan. He was born here, and he does not have a thick accent and speaks no Japanese. So he's always having to put on the heavy accent to play these roles, which I think is pretty terrible, but definitely remembered him. And then that guy is David Proval as Fletcher's head goon. He launched his acting career with a starring role in Mean Streets in 73, directed by Martin Scorsese, and has been working nonstop ever since. His other notable movies include The Phantom in 96, The Brady Bunch movie in 95, Four Rooms in 95, and The Shawshank Redemption in 94. So I definitely recognized him immediately. I was like, this is one of those gangster guys, always in the mob or plays a hitman for sure. I'll mention these last ones very quickly, but John Paragon as R.J. Fletcher Jr., he's best known for his work on the TV series Pee-wee's Playhouse, because he portrayed Jambi the Genie and voiced Terry the Pterodactyl.
Okay.
And then the two cameos, or the cameo that was and the cameo that they wanted that they didn't get, if you know the story already. The first one is, of course, Barry Hansen, also known as Dr. Demento.
Dr. Demento.
He's seen eating whipped cream during the Channel 62 promo. The Dr. Demento Show, a syndicated radio show that started in 74 and moved online in 2010, focuses exclusively on novelty and comedy records. It played a huge role in Weird Al's career. So, of course, giving him a cameo seemed like the perfect thing to do. And do you know about the cameo that they could not land?
I do.
Okay. Weird Al originally wanted Sylvester Stallone to do a cameo as the helicopter booth worker in the Rambo sequence, and discovered that he and Stallone had a mutual friend. Stallone initially agreed to make the appearance, but ultimately had to back out due to scheduling issues. So it was like, that would have been the cherry on the top, man. Just to have him in that cameo would have been like, perfect. So, all right. I covered as many as I could. I'm sure I left out some people. Anybody that I didn't cover that you wanted to mention?
No, you got them all that I was going to bring up. So
okay. All right. So, all right, let's hit it. Iconic scene when somebody says UHF. What's the scene that first pops in your head?
All right. So I've got a few for iconic scenes. See, this is where I struggled.
Yeah, I'm there with you,
because I was trying to differentiate between favorite and iconic.
Mm-hmm.
And iconic, like you've got the Rambo.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You got the Twinkie Weiner Sandwich. The Beverly Hillbillies music video, because I'm sure that was also in heavy rotation on MTV.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy Ernie's. I'm gonna make, if I don't sell a car by 3 p.m., I'm gonna club this seal.
Mm-hmm.
And then Spatula City.
Yeah.
And I don't know where you'd want to put the flying poodle scene.
Ooh.
If that's an iconic or if that's in
cringy.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I think it was cringy, but I think it was supposed to be. Like even then it was, because like that was like, you have the whole like turtles are nature's suction cup.
Mm-hmm.
They stick.
Right.
And then he throws poodles out and then him and Bob are like, where'd you find this guy? I thought you had this.
Yeah.
So like they had this whole show that somehow made it on the air that like neither one of them knew about. So like that was kind of like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was the scene where it got you and Tyra was like, okay, I think I'm done now. She's like, I can't watch.
Well, and do you have any more in your notes on that one?
On the actor or the scene?
Because on either.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right.
So you want to go ahead and jump into it?
It's kind of a downer part.
It is.
But, yeah. So I guess during the filming of the movie, he had filmed that scene,
mm-hmm.
and then he was killed by a drunk driver.
Right.
But they had originally planned on having another scene towards the end of the movie during the telethon where like
mm-hmm.
the poodles were going to have their revenge on him.
Right.
Like, but they were going to film it with a stand-in instead, but they just decided that it didn't feel right, so they
mm-hmm.
just kind of let it be, which I think ultimately makes the flying poodle scene or the Raoul's Magic Kingdom. Well, you had the two scenes with Raoul's
mm-hmm.
Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
because I do quote it quite often, and I know it's a rip off of Cheech and Chong, but badgers,
right?
Badgers, we don't need no stinking badgers.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm at a zoo and they have a badger, it's
And it was funny because I was like, when it got to that scene, I was like, oh, so the whole thing at the beginning was just to get to him to, like the whole first section was just there so that later we could have this scene for him to say that line. Like it was all a setup for that. Because once again, not knowing the story now about how they had more to do with it, because you don't see him again at all in the movie. So it was like, I feel like it was just for that. They created that just for that one little bit. But
and I'm not sure. Like I wonder if the badger line would have made it in had he not, passed away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then they would have had the payoff at the telethon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But those are, for me, those are the iconic scenes. I've got a few more that are my favorite. But.
Yeah. So for me, for iconic, like the scene, like when I think of it, most of the things that I think of are the stuff in the Stanley's, his kid show, drinking from the fire. Like it's time to drink from the fire hose. But I know that was like heavy in the commercials for it. But that scene I always think about. The Rambo scene, of course. The opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark parody was like this, like at the very end where like he's doing the whole things with his face like Indiana Jones, and then he pulls out the sand and then he just throws the bag over his shoulder and grabs it, which I always thought that was perfect. Like so that, and then those are like the two main ones that I remembered. Honestly, what's so funny is I completely forgot about the Dire Straits Money for Nothing parody. Like when it started watching it last night, I was like, I remembered watching the video on MTV and I'd forgot that it was actually in the movie. Like I had somehow in my mind, I had separated those two things. So like I was geeking out during that part. I was like, oh man, this was one of my favorite. Like whenever it came on MTV, I was so excited because when you'd hear that opening riff, everybody was like, which one is it? Which one is it? Is it the Weird Al parody or is it the Dire Straits video? Because they would play them both like in the same day a lot of times. So,
well, and the fact that it's one of the rare songs where Weird Al doesn't do the whole thing just with his band. Mm-hmm. Mark Knopfler actually like guested on the track.
Well, that was his stipulation. He's like, you can do the parody, but I have to play the opening. I have to play the guitar riff. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do that. That's fine. Yeah. So and then they gave him permission to basically do the video shot for shot,
Yes.
which was great too. So Man, yeah. So that's by far now one of my moving into favorite scenes. That was one of my favorite scenes for sure. Iconic and favorite scenes are kind of interchangeable on this one. Conan the Librarian was hilarious.
That's on my list.
Yeah.
Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System?
Right. So I wasn't as big of a fan of Gandhi 2. Like that one was a little bit over the top for me. But I mean, it's, it fits with the humor. And I was going back to like knowing, Dr. Demento and Weird Al, like knowing their roots, like even the Poodles, like that fits in the thing. Cause it was kind of like, I want to say like shock humor, but it is kind of like it teeters on that edge of like, does it go too far as comedy? But even looking at it now, like it's harder for me to watch it now as an adult, but as a kid, number one, you knew the dogs were fake, so they're not really throwing poodles out the window.
Yeah.
And then and we'll get into it later because about how the rating, like they wanted him to cut certain things out to give it a PG rating. So Emo Phillips cutting off his thumb in the shop demonstration.
Just call me Mr. Butterfinger.
Boy, is my face red. Yeah. Like that seems kind of shocking, but Saturday Night Live have been doing that since the 70s. I mean, there's the infamous Dan Aykroyd as Julia Child cutting off, topic off her finger. So that kind of stuff didn't. And then like even the scene when Conan the Librarian chops the guy in half, so you can tell where it seemed like they cut some of that a little bit to not be like, if they would have lingered on it too long, it might have been too much, but it's a human cartoon. It's like we saw worse in Wile E. Coyote cartoons and Tom and Jerry.
Like,
so
when he cut the guy in half, it was bloodless. Like you could, It wasn't like blood and gore like it would have been like in like Nightmare on Elm Street or something.
Right, exactly.
It was just
Yeah, but like I said, for kids our age when this came out, like let's just say preteen, most likely, or early teenager. That's the stuff that we thought was funny. That's the kid spitting in his face when he asked him what his name, like that grosses me out now, but as a kid, that was the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen. So it just, your audience.
As a 12-year-old, it spoke to me.
Yeah. It's like, I've always wanted to do that, and like digging through oatmeal to find the marble. Like
you just won the prize. You get to drink from the fire hose.
All right. Any other favorite scenes you want to mention?
I've got two more. I've got Wheel of Fish.
Yes.
Where because I sometimes I will quote that line. Just you want to take what's in the box. Like if I'm watching like what Let's Make a Deal or something.
Like a deal,
and I just want I want Wayne Brady to break out the "You're so stupid." And then the hobo when he comes up and asks for change at the beginning of the movie.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And Weird Al holds out the change. He goes, and then he gives him $1.
Yeah, it's like 95 cents, $1, and he gives him $1. I was like, that was hilarious.
I mean, and then the payoff when he asked RJ for change and he gives him like the super penny. Rare penny.
Yeah,
like that's pretty funny.
And I kind of remember that, like when I saw him give him the penny and he was excited, I was like, wait, I think he's the one that like ends the telethon. Like that was coming back to me when I was rewatching it. So like,
and then there was one, it was kind of a throwaway scene and it was real quick, but I caught it. I mean, I've definitely seen it before, but this time it stunned out to me where George is sitting outside the station. He's like, where am I going to get $75,000? And Stanley's like, and he pulls out his wallet.
Yeah.
I got it.
Another one that's kind of a throwaway, but it made me laugh is when they've taken Stanley hostage and Weird Al gets there to save him and they're walking out and Yoshi and is it Yoshi? What is his name? Toshi? Tashi? Cooney, yeah. Cooney and all the karate guys come out the supply closet and what do they say? Supplies, like instead of surprise. So which, that's like one of the ultimate dad jokes. Like, what does the gender say when he jumps out of the gender closet? Yeah. Supplies. Yeah. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of like just those little bits that that keep you laughing as you go.
Yeah.
And once again, the Spatula City commercial is gold, comedy gold.
Right. And and much like the music, like there's a lot of it like I probably didn't understand at the time.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't seen those movies.
Right.
Like so now I go back and I watch it and I'm like,
oh yeah.
Because I mean I didn't see Rambo until like 5 years ago.
Later. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't see Conan until about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Like, it was like, there are definitely like movies or TV or stuff that I like the company so much, or I like the Spatula so much, I bought the company. Like, if you're not from the 80s when you saw the side boom, whatever I like the company so much, I bought it. Or,
it was a Razor. It was one of the Razor companies.
Yeah, whatever. There's just so many parodies in there that like you don't even think about. Like, but as a 12-year-old, you probably missed a lot of it. But because it was funny, like I loved the movie. Now as an adult, I can go back and watch it and be like, oh, this works on a whole different level.
Oh yeah. Definitely, like the mashed potatoes, him building the mound of mashed potatoes is from Close Encounters, which I had not seen when that came out. The red rum was from The Shining. I didn't recognize that reference, which I found out later was ad-libbed by Weird Al. That was like not scripted for him to do that. And when Stanley gets his mop back and he talks about, we're not going to take it anymore. It's from Network, which I had not seen, So there was, like I said, there was a lot of things in there for like adults that had seen those older movies would recognize. Kids wouldn't know, but it's still funny. So
right. The 80s Flick Flashback Podcast will return after these messages.
Hey there, fellow 80s movie aficionados. Are you ready to embark on a nostalgia-filled journey to the greatest era of cinema? Then look no further than the Retro Life for You 80s Movie Podcast. Join us every week as we rewind the VHS tapes, dust off those Betamax classics, and dive headfirst into the neon-soaked, totally tubular world of the 1980s movies. From the Brat Pack to action heroes, we've got it all covered. Breakfast Club, Ghostbusters, E.T. and Indiana Jones, and more. It's like a trip in Doc Brown's time machine, but without the DeLorean. So whether you're a die-hard 80s film buff or just curious about the cinematic gems of the past, Retro Life for You is your ticket to the ultimate movie time warp. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Retro Life for You, and we can be found anywhere you listen to your podcast, as well as on our website, www.retrolife4u.com.
All right, well, let's jump into some scenes, trivia scenes. I've got a few here. Some we've kind of already talked about, but talking about the Wheel of Fish. When the model was standing there holding the fish, I was like, first of all, that's got to be real fish. And I bet it stinks because she's trying to like look pleasant, but you can tell she's just not comfortable. So they were real fish. They were bought by a local fish market early one morning. The set designer began attaching them to the wheel around 6 a.m., making sure the wheel would spin smoothly. Filming started at 4:30 on a hot summer day in a building that wasn't air conditioned, filled with hot studio lights and over 100 extras. On the DVD commentary, Weird Al described the filming conditions as quote unquote ripe.
So, I can only imagine.
All right. So this is I was so glad somebody wrote this down because I almost paused in the movie to write all these down. All of the titles of the shows when he's doing the Friday night lineup. So in addition to the program shown on Channel 62, the station's Friday lineup on the wallboard includes Bestiality Today, Beat the Loan Shark, the Beverly Hillbillies, of course, Buddha Knows Best, Dog Racing from Rio de Janeiro, Druids on Parade, Eye on Toxic Waste, Fun with Dirt, of course, we know he mentioned, Leave It to Bigfoot, Mr. Ed, of course, My Three Mutants, Name That Stain, The News, Raoul's Wild Kingdom, Stanley Podolsky's Clubhouse, That's Disgusting, The Flying Pope, The Lice is Right, The Young and Dyslexic, Town Talk, Traffic Court, Secrets of the Universe, we saw the promo for that one, Underwater Bingo for Teens, Volcano Worshippers Hour, Wheel of Fish, Wild World of Tractor Pulls, Wonderful World of Phlegm, and You Bet Your Pink Slip. Programs shown but not on the lineup include Bowling for Burgers and Strip Solitaire. One of the shows, Volcano Worshippers Hour, in high school, Weird Al started a Volcano Worshippers Club just to get into the yearbook. So nice little nod there. So as we move into box office, in late 88, Orion Pictures took advantage of the high anticipation for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was also coming out in 1989, by pulling out a teaser trailer for this movie using much of the Raiders of the Lost Ark spoof footage, not revealing Weird Al Yankovic's face and the title until the very end. You can actually watch the teaser on this as a special feature on the DVD release. I was like, that was smart marketing. Like, people are waiting to see the new Indiana Jones, so why not use the spoof at the beginning? They've done that now. They've done that plenty of times now with more recent movies. So before its release in 89, Orion Pictures was pretty high on UHF. In fact, it tested higher with audiences than RoboCop, which Orion released in 87. The studio was so confident in the movie, they believed it would be their biggest hit of the summer, but it bombed with a $6.1 million domestic box office gross against a reported $5 million budget. It did open on July 31st, 1989, and landed at number 11 for the weekend box office. What else was out that week, you ask? Here's the list. UHF landed at 11. The only other new release was Shag, which it beat, which was in 12th. At number 10, Weekend at Bernie's. At number 9, Ghostbusters 2. Number 8, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Number 7, Dead Poets Society. Number 6, a Peter Pan re-release. Number 5, License to Kill. Number 4, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Number 2, When Harry Met Sally. Number 3, When Harry Met Sally. Number 2 was Batman. And number 1 in its third week, Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah.
Didn't stand a chance.
No. No, that was just one of those, like, we decided we were going to release the movie, and it's like, people are smarter about that now than they used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It did beat Karate Kid Part 3, so we'll just leave it there.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Which was number 13, right? Yeah. All right, so it's time for the rewatchability nostalgia meter. We come to our segment where we take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. The all-new rewatchability nostalgia meter is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with the waves of nostalgia it brings. If you listened before, you know how it works, but for those first-time listens, it's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. If you give it a number 1 or in the low range, you can say, I saw it once and that was enough. Right in the middle at number 5 is a good rewatch every couple of years. But if you want to take it all the way to 10, that means it's highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. So, Nicholas, I'm pretty sure where this one lands for you, but go ahead and tell us, where does UHF land? Mark, where would you put UHF on the rewatchability nostalgia meter?
I mean, come on. I think we already know where it is. It's a 1. No, no, it's 10. It's 10 out of 10. I mean,
well played, sir.
It's I mean, I can't. Like I said, I don't watch it as often as I used to, but I mean, every time I watch it, I just like it's for me, it's a great movie. I mean, I understand it's not. It's that type of movie that, like, you've got two different goods. You've got good like Shawshank Redemption good,
right?
And then you've got good like UHF good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like Shawshank Redemption is one of the greatest movies ever made, but I'm gonna rewatch UHF about 10 times before I rewatch Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
Not saying that Shawshank Redemption isn't a better movie, but
right?
Like, I can sit down and watch UHF, all the time.
It's rewatchability and nostalgia. That's what
right.
That's why this scale was created by me, because, like you said, there are better made movies, better quality, quote unquote, movies, that can win all kinds of critical acclaim. This one's not going to do that, but is it rewatchable? Yes. Does it bring nostalgia? Yes. I'm not going to rank it that high, but I appreciate your love for it, only because, like I said, it's been a long time since I rewatched it. It does rank very high for nostalgia for me. Rewatchability, probably not going to watch it that often, but I will want to rewatch it again if I'm in that mood. Like if I'm in that, airplane, Naked Gun type of mood, it's definitely going to be. So I'm going to give it about an 8, which I think is still
pretty high. Yeah.
Still pretty high. So, but yeah, the waves of nostalgia it brought were really good. Were really good for me. So all right. Well, I think we finally did it. Your wishes come true. We've covered UHF.
We finally got there. Now I can stop doing this. No.
Now you got to find another movie to beg me to do.
There's another one I've been begging for as well. But
yes, that one. Yeah, that one's coming too. We'll get there. All right. Well, thanks so much, Nicholas, for being a part. What you got coming up on Pop Culture Roulette?
We've got an episode that's a bit of a mixed bag. Like it
got a few of those lately.
Well, yeah, this one is a bit weird. We start on a bit of a downer, but we pick it up. I mean, it was some things happened on a personal level that kind of forced its way into the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There was a weird synchronicity that happened that was unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think we might be going on break for a little bit with the holidays and travel and stuff like that. But
right.
We might be getting inconsistent for the next month or so. But yeah, we got all those other episodes, or you can still reach out and
you got plenty of content. That's always
so
good to go back and listen. Find one of the bracket episodes. Those are my favorites. I always like the bracket episodes.
Yeah.
So
hit us up on Facebook, Pop Culture Roulette, or Instagram, Pop Culture Roulette. Well, I think we're just Pop Cult Roulette over on Instagram, but
you can find it.
Yeah. We're right there. So
cool. Thanks, Nicholas, for being with us. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to rate and review the show. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And make sure you check out the website and our TeePublic store. So thanks again for listening. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. You got to grab life by the lips and yank as hard as you can.
Just pure fun. Goonies never say die, they remind. In those films we lose our mind. John Hughes and all his teen dreams, montages and synthwave themes. In Ferris hands, the city bends, living a life like it never ends.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.